ladies and gentlemen. Ed, what's happening here, Mr. Ken? I don't have no thing. No thing.
It's your fault.
I got to do, technical. It's technical stuff, so I can handle that.
Ooh.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith. She's back from her sick leave. How are you feeling?
I feel better now.
Good. That's very good.
Nice turnaround.
Turnaround. So, as you're driving along on a daily basis, there are things that you see, and it doesn't dawn on you until maybe one day it clicks, and you go, what the heck are they doing? And all of you happen to pass this. You do. Ken does. I do.
How do you know I pass it?
I know you do. At some point in your life, you've passed this. And what it is when you pass, you know where the police station is by Esperanza, the Tiki Bar?
Uh-huh.
You've passed that, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. You passed it. And if you pass it at the right time, you'll notice that there are men that are doing a very good job in terms of cleaning up the sand on the road.
Oh, really?
You ever notice that?
No.
They're shoveling the sand.
No.
They're sweeping, they're shoveling the sand. And then they get that sand. They're like, where that rock wall is? It's like a rock wall.
No.
And they get that sand, and you know where they put it? Right back where it fell from. You never noticed that?
No.
So in other words, the sand, builds up along this, you know what I mean, right? Can't where the cars parked, where the sea grape leaves are.
Yeah, I know
and
that.
The sand builds up like in a little mound there, as it comes up, and then it falls over, and then they shovel it
right back to the spot,
and then they put it right back in that spot.
Well, won't it come
There's
back?
nothing to exactly. Okay.
So what's the purpose?
I just thought to myself, well, this is some job security here. Okay? Okay. This is some job security here, bro, because I felt like saying, rather than explain to them how that looks to me, I thought about getting a shovel and going to the water's edge, and every time the water come up, shovel it back in the water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I just, why not put a retaining wall?
Mm-hmm.
Something.
Yeah, I've never seen the guys shoveling it though. But
yeah.
I know the area. You don't come up with the wall.
Yeah,
no,
especially if it's in the morning. You're passing in the morning. They're sweeping and then they get the sand, and I watch it, and then they just put it right back on that mound, and I say, boy, now they know they can be employed for a little while.
Until after the show, and they say, hold on now.
Okay. See, the thing is, in life when you do a function, I think there's a feeling of, how should I say it, Rogan Smith, completion. That you've completed something, that you've accomplished something. I don't know how I would feel about shoveling the sand back so the next day the sand back down.
Yeah, and that's an everyday completion. There you go. So, okay. So
right,
it
no
came
problem.
back, and then I put it back where it was.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the purpose. Maybe there's a purpose that we're not familiar with. There might be a purpose.
Yeah, that's what it is, Rogan Smith. There's a purpose.
Maybe someone said this don't make sense, and someone said, listen, we ain't hire you to think, just put it back.
Yeah. Well, no, I know that.
That's a possibility too.
I know the hiree probably is in that mode, right? But I want to know who the hirer is.
Because sometimes you think these people doing crazy stuff, but if somebody gave them an order.
All I want to do is, Ken, I want you to picture me, okay, on the beach in little shorts, okay, and as the tide roll in, I get the water and I shovel it, I throw it back in the sea.
See, that's your route.
I try to keep the water off of the beach.
That's your route coming in the morning.
Oh, boy.
Mm-mm.
You talk about, that's a rough one, man.
Well, that's what you see. And when I travel to work, what I see is a lot of dead animals. Oh. No, on the highway, 1,000 dead animals.
1,000?
1,000. And I watch them, watch their bodies degrade by the sun and the elements.
You mean like a dead dog?
Oh, sure.
Okay, but I just want to say this: 1,000. I just want to clear.
Probably more than 1,000.
Okay, all right. Well, I just want to clear up the number. Okay, because I know I drive on these roads. I see a dead dog from time to time.
You don't go on Tonic Williams.
No, I don't go on
Tonic.
Right.
Independence and
but
all
this
that.
is what I'm thinking in my mind, because I like go visual. You know what I mean? Visual. Okay? What kind of obstacle course is this with thousands of dead dogs? And if that's the case, we got a real big stray dog problem because it's not wiping out the problem.
Okay, so clearly I'm exaggerating.
Clearly, yeah.
I would say
hundreds?
in a year.
No, at one time.
Oh, I could pass four or five dead animals.
Okay.
And every day as I'm driving, I keep saying I got to call environmental help. I got to call environmental help, and I keep forgetting. No. I said in a day.
Oh, in a day you see thousands?
I say, listen to what I'm saying before you try to just make a joke.
Okay.
I said clearly I'm exaggerating when I say 1,000.
Okay.
I said, but I will see 4 to 5 different animals on my route.
Wow.
Going to work.
That's quite a bit. I don't see that.
Cats, dogs especially. Mm-hmm. If I have time, I'm gonna take a picture.
Yeah, take pictures.
I'm telling, and they degrade over time because nobody moves them.
Well, there used to be a situation where they would move them.
They don't move them anymore.
Another thing, you talk about PR and what government is doing and all that. So the other day, and I don't know if this to be the case, but I want to check it out. The other day I was having to leave to go to the airport really early, and I thought what I saw was a brand new.
Mic, please?
I thought what I saw was a brand new garbage truck, like a big garbage truck. And then it occurred to me, we haven't heard in a long time, so please correct me if I'm wrong. We haven't heard in a long time problems with garbage collection, have we? Why doesn't anyone know this? I mean, is there? I don't know if there is or not. I just don't know.
There may be.
Yes, but when you have, anytime you have problems with garbage collection, you always hear that garbage can get collected and they throw it on the road and all that. But I'm wondering because I saw this brand new truck. It looked like a big truck too. Have you seen any of these? No. And so I'm just wondering if that is something that is happening because
I feel like someone was just complaining about their garbage not being collected.
Oh, okay.
Either this week or last week.
Yeah. So anyway, what else is new? What else is new? What you got on tap?
What I have on tap?
Yeah, you have anything on tap?
Yeah. So today was the funeral of. What are you doing? Are you scratching?
No, I was groping.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, no problem. Don't worry about it. It's a personal thing.
Oh my
you
God.
do your grope, I grope.
I don't grope.
You know what women do? Let me tell you what women do.
Let me
tell you what women do. They do this. They always adjusting, but we can't adjust.
Men do it too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem.
This is what guys do. All the time. Don't look at me like that. Always sit.
I don't think they do that. I think
yes.
I think if you're somewhere you can't see us in Radio Land, people. But if you see, I can understand maybe going like that, but if you like that,
yes, they do that.
You know what I just realized about you, Rogan Smith? You're a big exaggerator.
I'm not listen.
They don't be like swirling around, twerking. Come on.
It's always a shift or like when guys have to scratch their stuff.
Yeah.
What it is.
Yeah. What they do is they
when guys have to scratch, they do this. Yeah. Like they hold in their stuff, but they be scratching.
I can tell you one thing. You don't make a good
man.
No. Okay.
No. That's what they do.
No. Men generally do like this. Will be the move. I do it like to the pockets, like a little.
So it looks like you just squatted too far.
I just kind of bent down. You know what I mean? Let it drop. Anyway, so that's another story. But what you got?
So I said today was a big day, in obviously in American news because they laid George Bush to rest.
Oh yeah, really?
No, it was today. So people were making.
Service was yesterday.
Yeah, they had a memorial, and so a lot of people were making reference to the fact that when Donald Trump came inside the church, he, greeted Barack Obama. Barack Obama actually was quite kind and, extending his hand and, to shake. And the same thing with Michelle Obama. But he didn't say anything to Bill Clinton and Hillary. And, so people were making a big fuss about that. Melania, on the other hand, came through and she shook hands with everybody except Hillary because Hillary was kind of far away. So she just kind of did the wave to her. Mm-hmm. And so, okay, fine. Trump is wrong for that. Boom. Mm-hmm. So now we got CNN's Don Lemon.
Donnie?
I can't stand this gentleman. I really can't. I find him to be so incredibly petty. So he is saying that he would have basically shaded the president if he came to shake his hand, and saying that he felt like, what's his name, Barack Obama shouldn't have shaken his hand. He should have just, kind of given this silent treatment and like a head nod because of who Trump is. And so I want to play the clip. It's probably like 2 minutes, but I think it's worth it just so you can hear him speak. And he's on with his colleague Cuomo, who is saying, I totally disagree with you, Don. That's a little childish. So let's hear it.
Can we talk about, I don't know. He tried to keep them out, and that is the
absolutely.
greatness of America.
So I'm obviously in full agreement with Chris. Here's a couple who have remained dignified in spite of everything, every negative comment that came their way during those 8 years that they were in the office. How would it look at this funeral for Barack Obama to shade the president? Then that becomes the conversation rather than remembering George Bush and his contribution to American politics and to the country at large. That becomes the moment. And people always bring up the fact that Michelle Obama, one of her famous quotes was, when they go low, we go high. So how does it look if in that moment she's not shaking hands and she's not making eye contact? It comes across as hypocritical, doesn't it?
So
you have to rise above that.
Here's what I would have done. I would have probably shaken his hand because I would have been in a kind of a forced scenario. It's forced. Let's face it. They didn't do it willingly. They didn't do it.
Well, Barack certainly looked like he did.
When I say willingly, they didn't. They would have preferred if the shaking hands weren't an issue. They would have preferred that, I'm sure, because I'm sure they abhor him. And then I would have probably later on said how it disgusted me.
See, well, I'm happy you're not the president.
Yeah, no, he's not the president either.
Current or former.
Well, I'm just saying I would have done something. I might not use the word disgust, but I would have said it disturbed me, and I think that's honest. I think if someone asked you, I allowed you to say your thing. What I'm saying is, if someone in an interview say, how did you feel, Mr. Obama, about shaking his hand? What would your response have been?
My response would have been, I was focused on the moment and honoring a wonderful man who has made an excellent contribution to this country. That was my focus.
Right. And then I would have, and then that's wonderful because as a report I would have followed. Well, what does that have to do with shaking Donald Trump's hand?
You asked me. But that's my focus.
I'm just saying I would have followed that up.
Yeah, but that's fine. It has nothing to do with
it.
I would have just said I
would have just said I was uncomfortable.
On Donald Trump.
I would have said it was an uncomfortable moment.
And then that becomes the story.
Well, fine, but it's an uncomfortable moment.
And I'm so happy that Barack Obama is above the fray and decent and honorable enough to put his personal feelings aside and shake that man's hand in that moment.
I hope let's mark that because I know Michelle Obama. And I hope that when Michelle Obama,
you know Michelle Fields.
I know Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama,
and I hope that when Michelle Obama writes a book or goes on an interview or something, because someone's going to ask her, that's a guarantee, as my boy Emerald would say, and we'll see what she says.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. We'll be right back. I'm Ed Fields here with Rogan Smith. So yeah, they had the 5 presidents. My man Bush, he gave. I think him and Michelle got something a little going on. He gave her candy.
You think she has bad breath or something?
No, I think that's a little thing between them.
He always giving her something.
I think he really likes her.
I think he likes her too, but I'm like.
And I think that's their little thing,
It was cute.
So because he came in with the candy.
He shook their hands and then he pulled the candy out and he gave it to her.
And obviously, and because he had it in his hand, he didn't pull it out of his pocket, right? So obviously he said, when I get up there, I can give Michelle a candy.
Yeah, he likes her.
He likes her. I think he wanted a piece of the chocolate.
Oh my God. I'm not even gonna.
Well, you know who his other favorite girl was?
Condoleezza.
Mm-hmm.
She was a smart lady.
I think he liked the chocolate. But anyway.
No, but like I said, I'm very happy that I don't want Obama to tarnish his legacy or his dignity. He's a classy fellow.
Neither do I, regard. You can't find a bigger fan of Barack Obama than me.
Well, I continue to be a fan of his because I like the way he handles it with such class.
He handles himself well. But he said things that made mistakes, like when he said about the people with the guns and all that kind of stuff. There's always situations. He was with Reverend Wright, and he said things happen.
Mm-hmm.
But his greater acts in
eclipse those faux pas.
Right. So there's another little PC thing going on. Ken Williams, would you be so kind as to play this song? Let Rogan Smith hear it as well, please. Beautiful song,
really
don't you think?
Stay,
you like that song, Rogan Smith?
Baby, it's cold outside.
We could do a little duet.
I really can't stay.
Yes. Okay. So listen to this now.
Oh, Jesus.
You know what the deal is, right?
Kendrick just told me. So go
That's
ahead.
on the Me Too. That hit a Me Too.
You see, this is when you go into... explain it before I even give my input.
So I don't even know the words, and no one knows the words. Okay? All he knows, baby, it's cold outside.
And I really can't
Okay? And I really can't say. Okay? And it was written in 1944 or something like that.
Oh, okay. That's
okay?
The 50s.
Beautiful song.
Love it.
Some people call, say you got to take that song off the radio, man.
They better stop.
That's offensive. Now, let me do this. There are women who have been the subject of molestation, sexual assault, sexual abuse. And this song, or the words when they hear the lyrics, may be a reminder of an episode that they may have had.
Released
especially
in 53.
when they talked about, the drink and all that kind of stuff. What did you put in this drink? I get that. But, there's got to be some kind of...
Yeah.
So they did a poll.
Stop.
They did a poll. Because, you see, it can't... See, my life can't be about your tragedy. Now, let me talk about this.
Yeah.
We have to be sensitive, okay? And let me show you something. When that was written, I don't know what the purpose was.
Right.
I don't know what the intent was. This is a Christmas
And it seems
song.
very innocent.
It's in the current moment, but I'm going to show you how absurd things get. I'm not calling that absurd yet, but I'm going to say they took a poll after the station banned the song. So far, to date, the poll is 90% keep my music on, keep my Christmas song on.
Good.
All right? Now, here's the thing about things in life.
Wow.
We have rules that say you cannot impose something upon me.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm in a movie theater and I'm watching the movie, I paid for my movie, and I've come to see this movie, smoking that can kill me, that's a line. Because we both paid for this movie, and I want to watch the movie, and this smoking is offensive,
Right.
etc. And you know ahead of time that when you go to the movie, if you're a smoker, it says no smoking. When you're driving on the radio and you hear that song,
Yeah.
push the button.
Turn it off. How about
You have
that?
a choice.
How about that?
Push the button.
Rather than getting it removed
Because
entirely.
otherwise, everything will be nothing.
Absolutely.
Okay? Because there are TV programs that are offensive. Push the button.
Yeah.
There are TV programs that your kids shouldn't watch.
Turn it
Push
off.
the button. Okay? That's your choice.
Yeah.
To push the button. But guess what? I want to hear the song.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I want to hear the song.
Right. So I understand. I get it. But your tragedy. Let me rephrase that. Let me flip that around. My tragedy cannot be your life. Forget about. I'm not dealing with your tragedy because I don't want to seem insensitive in any way. But my tragedy cannot be your life.
I don't see how people feel that something that I'm affected by, unless this is something with the mass population is affected by, but something that I'm personally affected by, is so strong that I need to block you and everybody else who is enjoying a certain thing from enjoying it because of me. And I don't like this revisionism.
Yeah. And was it an intent?
Okay.
Was there intent there?
In 1953 when they wrote
no,
this
but I mean,
song?
I don't know what year, but listen to the song. Was there really intent?
I've never even listened to that song.
No.
And
I can
heard
tell you
that.
one thing.
And maybe
that song will bump up now. Stop bumping up.
That song is always bumped up
It's
at
bumping
Christmas
up.
time.
It's going up. It could probably be the number one song of the year.
This is a serious
Yeah.
problem for
You
me.
want to hear how absurd it is? I want you to go onto this and put PETA, that's P-E-T-A, view of Bring Home the Bacon. Watch this.
Oh, jeez.
Watch
well,
this.
we know how PETA is extreme.
Yeah. And that ain't ER. Okay?
People
That's
for
an A.
ethical treatment of animals.
Okay?
PETA is extreme, though.
Okay. Well, watch this. Okay, I'm going to bring it up. Because what they're saying now is that, and I don't want to get it wrong,
PETA,
but
bring home the bacon.
That bring home the bacon, bringing home the bacon, that's offensive to the pigs.
The pigs know what that is.
It's like the dolphins can see their reflection in the mirror.
So the pigs told them
That's what it say? That's what it say, Ken? Yeah, bring home the. So now you can't say bull crap, or you can't use any animal reference.
Let the cat out of the.
Can't say take the bull by the horns.
This is stupid.
Yeah, because you know what? Let me tell you why you can't say it. Because there are actually people taking the bull by the horns. Listen. Well, I guess if you're in rodeo, you might be taking the bull by the horns. So they get. Well, rodeo. They don't. They finish with that. They don't want even no rodeo now. Because that's cruel.
Do you know, I remember Pierce Morgan hosts, along with two other ladies, oh God, what's it called? It's almost like a Good Morning America program, but in Britain. I forget what it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good Morning Britain, or whatever. And he had a big problem with this woman she's like some feminist, and she's saying how we shouldn't be calling snowmen. We should say they're snow people because there are snow women out there.
Watch this. Say that to me. Say it again.
You know, we in whatever their movement is, we believe that we really need to stop referring to snowmen as snowmen. We think it's very sexist, and there are snow women out there,
Shut
so
up.
we should.
Now, that's okay. All right. Let me tell you
There
why.
are
Let
snow
me tell you why.
people.
Let me tell you
Mr.
what I'm
Fields,
saying. Yeah. You
you're-
know why?
you're a-
Let me say
you're a
this.
sexist
My snowman
pig.
have a
You're-
penis. So what I must call him?
I guess what? I think.
Okay.
I
I
think
put a
Pierre
penis
said
on him.
something along that lines. Now you're getting to this point where you're
Come
just
on,
being
man, I
extreme.
gotta-
This is extreme. This is silly.
Well, first of all, the snowman don't care. Okay.
You know me?
Okay. The snowman is involved in the conversation.
You can't
Okay.
call them snow people.
Because,
That's
are
what's
we
that's-
offending the snowman?
Yeah. You're offending me because there are snow people out there.
Click the dial.
And what if they're a transgender snow person?
Why is this person calling? I told him I can't speak to them.
Then why don't you turn your phone off?
I'm doing that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is silly.
No, we got to see it's a
the
line.
pendulum has swung too wide right now.
Speaking of which, we're going to do another thing. I want you to put in Neil deGrasse Tyson. Put in Neil deGrasse. Yeah, you know who he is, right? The astrophysicist.
What is he saying?
He's on the Me Too thing too. They got a Me Too on him. Apparently, and I don't know the rules. I don't want to. I'm not going to cross any rules. I'm not doing. But I'm just saying.
But you put in Me Too with this?
No, I think you just put Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's coming up with that
okay.
because it's the recent, right? So he responds to sexual harassment allegations. Apparently, the allegation is so Ken can look it up. He was doing some work with a lady. She came. He invited her up for a drink to his apartment. I don't know if he's married or not, but he came up. She invited. He came out in his undershirt. I mean, I imagine like a t-shirt. I don't know if it was a singlet.
As we call them, wife beaters.
Okay. Or if it was just a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So right off the top, I don't know if singlet or t-shirt qualifies as something, untoward. I don't know.
Okay.
And then they had a drink or whatever, and apparently when she was leaving, he said something like, well, I'd like to give you a hug, but I don't know what else I might want to do.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
she felt gross, I think she felt. I said she felt. We'll be right back.
Baby, it's bad out there.
Baby, it's cold outside. Boom. Yeah.
He can bring it on that.
The great king. The king.
Hey, it's so good to see you, my brother.
Well, now listen. Let me say
No,
something.
please.
Let me say something. For many years, I was calling Mr. Percy Francis Vola.
You clearly
As you know, my aunt was an English teacher, and she taught me in such a way that I couldn't say chicken.
Chicken.
I would say chicking.
Chicken.
No, not chicken. Because you see, nothing ends in an ing can be said chicken. So I thought chicken was just people's way of not pronouncing chicking correct.
Okay.
Tarzan and the Apes, I thought that was Thousand and the Apes because people didn't know how to do T's. So when I met Percy for many, many years ago, I could think of probably about at least for 30 years, I called him Vola. He never corrected me.
He probably thought you were so strange.
He thought I was ignorant. Okay? And then one day someone said, who you calling Vola? Who's that?
It is Vola. But the name is
Vola.
Vola. V becomes W.
We have with us, ladies and gentlemen, a legend. I'm
Icon.
you know what? I'm blessed, Ken, to be in the station with two icons, Rogan Smith
Where's Jerome?
and Walla Francis. Now, first of all, Walla, where does this name come from?
Yeah.
That's a great little history lesson.
Yeah, let's hear it.
In Mason's edition, growing up as a boy.
Right around the corner from me.
Yeah, right, because he was right there.
Yeah.
And I used to go up and hill to see you sometime, and I don't know if you ever came down, but anyway.
When I used to go to the barber.
Yeah. But we were we weren't 10 years old yet. We might have been roughly around 10 years old. We had this language we called the B language. Everything, the syllables were B, right? And so my cousin, anytime he wanted me out of the house, he'll pass by and say, "Wabullaby, wabullaby, wabullaby, wabulaba," right? Now
Y'all was slow?
that was actually the code that we had when he's calling me at the house.
Yeah,
So
but no one else knew.
no one else knew.
But they know what you meant.
Right now, my brothers and sisters and all us, we all spoke this language.
Okay.
All right.
Is it a language still living, or is it a dead language?
Some people still do it, but it dead. It dead. You know, like for example, your name, you will be Abed.
Okay, good.
You see,
Abed.
Abed for bills.
Yeah.
Robo Gaban.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Yeah. So.
Papa
Ken,
Trebek.
that's Kendrick.
Gaben Trebek.
Okay.
Right?
So you all started drinking at a very young age.
Yeah, we used to drink spiced tea. Lemon tea.
Babette. So how we get to Walla then?
Yeah, well, when he calls me out the house, he'll say "Wabalaba," and when you translate it, it's translated "Walla." You see?
So y'all
Now,
even had translations in this
yeah,
language?
that's it. It's a translation, yeah. Because we didn't want our parents to know what we were talking about, so we basically created that language in the neighborhood, and
So
that's
back then they didn't have things like video games and things like that.
nothing like
Just create some stuff.
nothing of the sort. You know.
So
That's awesome.
this is interesting because you would have been, I suppose, a child of the 40s, eh?
Yeah, I was born in '48.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually 10 years older than I am. And when I don't know how far Junkanoo goes, you know, the history of Junkanoo has all sorts of unclarities sometimes, but you would have been in the time when Junkanoo went up and down Bay Street,
Exactly.
when one group passed the other, when they had no barricades, you just stand on the road to watch it. I think they had the police rack, maybe.
No, they didn't have anything.
They didn't have anything,
No,
right?
nothing.
And I remember I used to be scared of Junkanoo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. When I was a kid,
Okay.
I used to be scared, you know, these because it looked, fierce-looking costumes and stuff. But it wasn't any big costumes. It was just crepe paper, fringe, big fringe, cowbell, horn, goatskin, drum, whistle.
Well, the most creativity actually came with the individuals.
With the individual
You
costumes.
know, the individual
That was a
costumes
big
when
thing.
they march behind one
Right,
another.
right,
You know,
right,
and that was very exciting because
Exactly,
I think
yeah.
people came to see them more so than.
Right. And then they would have things like the steel band and that and all kinds of things like that. You remember that?
Well, they had the steel band one year,
Uh-huh.
and then the following year that was banned.
Okay,
Apparently
they
it
banned
was
it.
banned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trinidadian
But you
and
know the leaders of the groups were kind of big men, like big
Husky.
size, like
Okay.
like Meg On,
Right,
you know,
right, yeah.
like Brian Gibson,
Yeah.
Yeah.
tall, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I remember Gabriel. He was the one man leader for East Bay Service before Meg On.
Mm-hmm.
As a boy, I could see him right now. He had one dance of this world, you know.
Yeah.
And
So you would have been in 1958, 10 years old. When did you start getting into Junkanoo?
I would have been around early 60s, like around about 62.
Okay, so
But I grew up around Junkanoo because I was born in the Bakery Corner, just at the foot of the hill of Market Street,
by Purity,
and so I was 5 minutes from Bay Street,
by the Capitol.
by the Capitol. I was through the Capitol Corner, east side of the Capitol Corner,
Okay.
and I grew up in Mason's Addition,
Right.
by the cinema. So you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Great experience, and the Wallace Brothers, the Silver Slipper.
Right.
That was a big Junkanoo territory.
What was
And
the
of course,
attraction? You said you were surrounded by
well,
it. What called you to it?
Well, I can tell you this. My dad actually took me to Junkanoo from when I was 5 years old. Being very close, we just walked
Yeah,
over.
you walk over the hill. Yeah.
Just walk over, and I'll hear them. I wouldn't sleep that night anyway. I'll hear them. All the groups
Oh, yeah.
coming over.
Yeah.
Boom.
But what they had was like a marching kind of beat, like especially when they approach the hill, you get the drum, digga-dum. So because all the groups, all the hills really led to Bay.
Yeah.
You see, so you would hear that.
Because
you
did they parade to Bay?
Yeah, they paraded. Well, not paraded, but they had this slow march,
Okay.
like a military kind of
Right,
rhythm,
right.
Fast step,
Right.
right. So if you stop to pee, You know,
one must pee.
Yeah, you know, you
gotta
get left.
keep
You got to catch up.
So, just wanted you to know, everyone, the king said pee on the radio. Now, here's the thing.
Yeah, peace for Percy.
Yeah. Okay. For a second there. Hold on a second there. I had to catch myself a second. Man. I'm still recovering from the trauma.
All right.
Okay. Now, you get to Bay, and was it a? This is what I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what I recall hearing, that it was almost kind of like gang-like, and that you could actually have fights between the groups. Is that true or is that imagined?
Well, not in my time. That had passed then.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
that had
that used
passed.
to happen.
But they weren't called groups like now. They were actually gangs. For some
Okay.
reason, I don't know why they called them gangs. But they were referred to.
I guess from each neighborhood.
Right. I guess
The
they
Valley
really
gang,
like a gang of people.
yeah,
You know.
the Masons Edition
Right.
gang,
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
You see.
Now,
Yeah.
what is interesting about this, Wola, is you would have seen from the time. So when did you start in kind of like the leadership and the creative role in Junkanoo?
Well, I started the creative role from the very beginning because when we formed ourselves as a small group in Masons Edition, referred to as the Masons Edition Boys, and a portion of the older men from the East Street Gang, because they had more experience, I started drawing. They say, I hear you could draw, right? Say, draw something.
Draw
right?
something.
So I draw something. Say, oh, you could draw it. So that was it. That's how it begun. You know, we started a little small group, and Phil Cooper had a brother named Connie Cooper, and he did all the sewing. You know, we used to sew cardboard together, then needle and cord.
For the skirt and all that.
Well, I mean for the cardboard.
Oh, to put the cardboard together.
Yeah, we used to sew all the crowns, and we sewed them. Yeah, we sewed them.
And in those days, it was
Yeah.
really based on themes more than the big costumes, etc. Everyone just kind of get into one theme. 1 year is the Buckingham Palace.
Is that the case?
1 year is the Vikings, the Aztecs.
1 year, 1 year is the Beefeater or something like that, you know, or the French infantry or anything, but you know, that kind of thing.
What is interesting is, and I don't know how many people who we can speak to who would have had this experience, you would have seen that evolution over the time to what it is now.
I would have seen the evolution.
Well, you would have been a part of the evolution.
Yeah, I've been a part of the evolution. The banging and all the cowbell swinging and all the swords and all those kind of things, I never experienced that aspect of it. But I think that's where the law came on the books at that point. Well, there was a break in Junkanoo in the 40s because of World War. It must have been World War II.
Yeah.
Right, there was a break between I think 42 and 48 or somewhere around there.
Okay.
Until Stafford Sands, I think, came back in 1950 to bring it back. You know, Junkanoo was big in Jamaica. And because of all that same kind of activity, it was banned. I mean, totally banned. That was it.
Because of the gang warfare.
Right, gang warfare. And the same thing almost happened here. Okay. At the end of the day, but like I say, when they thought it being a tourist attraction. Right? That's when Stafford Sands in 1950.
Listen, folks, we're going to take a break, but before we go out, let me just let you hear a little bit of the King making music these days, man. What's this one called?
Well, the album is called Feeling the Rush.
Okay, Feeling the Rush.
Don't Stop the Junkanoo Rush.
And this is all favorite people. Let's get ready.
People. Well, that's the Village one you're talking about.
Island
that
Village.
was Island Village is a little.
All right, this is your boy over here singing. Let's play a couple of tunes. That's the King telling us about bush tea and bush medicine. I don't even want to get into that with you. That's a whole other story. We'll talk more about the record in a bit. But listen, Junkanoo, you know, this country has, by the way, oh yeah, I gave you some water. This country always seems to have organizational issues.
Yep.
Okay? I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to be diplomatic, right? And, you know, you look at a parade like, say, the Macy's Day Parade, right? Or the Rose Bowl Parade or whatever. It's fairly well organized. You know, they got it together, the parade route, the people are seeing a continual thing. I'm not gonna be jaundice or jaundice the argument, but I'm gonna ask you: are you happy with where Junkanoo is today?
Ed, to be honest with you, I'm not happy. I'm not pleased with where Junkanoo is. I think there's a lot that can be done with our parades and the way we treat them and the works. Take, for example, you mentioned Macy's, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even the Rose Bowl and all of them. They're really big, huge parades, parade of flowers. You can imagine that?
I know.
And,
Do you know, by the
and,
way, I saw something on Macy's the other day where they prepare for Macy's Day Parade 18 months ahead of the parade.
I can believe that.
yes, because they.
So before the parade, even
I
you know,
can believe that.
It's a set program. You sit down, you organize, and you say, all right, this is what it's going to be 12 months out. All right, this is,
Yeah.
This is what we
this
can
is
do.
your grand marshal works. You line up all your bands. You do whatever is necessary to do. And I'm sure they get the money.
Mm-hmm.
The
That's
money
another
is
thing. That's
money is
money
really a,
Yeah,
a
well, that's
big,
what comes from
big.
sponsorships.
Yeah, you see.
Well, Macy's is the primary driver. on
Of
it.
course, you see, and so we have a primary driver who could help us to drive some of the plans that we have in mind. I think we could improve, but the capacity is not there for the earnings. All right, and a lot of people don't come out because what are they coming out for? All the tickets gone. You know where to sit.
I gotta have
and so
gaps. I gotta have this. I gotta deal with that.
you understand what I'm saying? And then there's a lot of issues.
Yeah.
We just gotta sit down and decide what it is we want to do. I would say let's look for somewhere big. This is what they did in Brazil. They went in.
They created a thing.
They created a stadium in the ghetto, right, in Brazil, and they called it the Samba Drum. And boy, that's a beauty. I mean that place. I mean, if we could have something like that,
we have not been able to commercialize it, and I don't mean to commercialize it in the sense of denigrating the art form, but to monetize it. So one of the things that is at the heart of all of our problems here is our tax structure, right? So that people who are sponsors are doing it purely philanthropically and because of the culture, right?
But if you were to give him a tax break
A
as
tax
an
incentive.
to support John Canoe, that might be
we
a
talked
good
about that
inducement.
with Felicity Ingram the other day, Humblesong, who was on, about how we can encourage private
Incentivize.
sponsorship, right? Because let's face it, the government just can't do it all.
no.
Okay, it's not feasible.
No, and we have a beautiful sponsor, Sun Oil,
Right,
Shell
right,
Bahamas
right,
Limited.
right,
For how long now?
They've been sponsoring us now for 30 plus years,
Jeez.
and they give back.
All the groups do. All the groups have at least have a sponsor.
Have a sponsor,
But
yeah.
you need much more.
Oh,
okay,
way
that they
more
can
than that.
afford or they can give.
Yeah.
Because you can have sub sponsors. You can have a major sponsor and you can have sponsor, and they would even be in a position to give more with the right tax incentives. And if there's one thing that you want to incentivize is the promotion of the national culture.
So individuals in your group, they just do it at their own cost.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, they take on a lot.
Because
Individuals
the
take
love
on a
for
lot. I know
it.
some people would spend up to about $3,000 on parade on a
Right.
costume just buying feathers alone. Feathers gone
Feathers are
sky high.
expensive. Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's where feathers go.
Yeah, they
That's where
they do,
feathers
right?
But there is something. See, so the thing is, Rogan, our parades, and I call them parades, by the way, and that's why I would always take deference, and we're going to talk about the carnival experiment, the fact that we could call it carnival and people freaked out. We have Junkanoo parades, but no one's freaking out over the name parade. You know what I'm saying? It's just a thing. But
It's a little different.
well, no, because there's carnivals everywhere.
But they all have parades.
Yeah, they're all parades. But let me just say this. You have a situation where, one, it is a parade that happens during Christmas. There are very few places on the planet that have parades during Christmas, and that's okay. But that in itself
That's the selling
is a
point.
prohibitive issue with regard to the tourist aspect. Because first of all, most visitors don't even get to this island until the 26th. They spend Christmas.
But if you promote it properly,
Yeah, but people
will
tend
come
to stay
and
home
plan
for Christmas.
it.
Yeah, but except that people tend to stay home for Christmas. It's just one of those things. No matter where you travel in the world, when it starts to happen is right the day after Christmas because people want to be home most of the time with their family for Christmas. That could change, I get it, but that's the reality of the world, right? So when you look at all these other parades, they happen at different times of the year. The second thing about Junkanoo is that it's non-participatory. You can't just jump up and get in a Junkanoo group and get in a thing'em. You got to practice. You got to build your costume. It's not like carnival. You throw on a little thing and then get in, just jump up.
Junkanoo is a sports culture.
It's a spectator thing.
It's right. It's a spectator sport. And as a result, just like how you have a football team, it's the same.
Exactly.
It's basically the same. You have to do the practicing. You have to do all the rest of the stuff.
Right.
And so on. So that's what makes it a little different from the carnival, the jump-in kind of situation. You just can't jump at the Saxon. No, sir.
No, you can't. They kick you out.
Oh, you know, right?
But you try it.
I like that. I mean, so if I want to jump in a line, I could participate in carnival, and then I have this where I could sit back and be a spectator.
And that was really some of the impetus behind doing a carnival, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, of course, because it's very labor intensive, probably one of the most labor intensive things around, that limits the amount of people who actually get involved. So when you go to a place like Trinidad or wherever, Brazil, like the whole nation is, I mean, it's a everyone's engaged, right? I mean, didn't you find that to be the case?
And the thing about it too, everybody comes home for it. The diaspora come, they come home to it, and that's a good thing. That used to happen with Junkanoo, with students mainly back in the day, which made it so great for us because everybody clamoring just to get home get on a flight to get home to be a part of Junkanoo.
So
I don't feel that anymore.
What do you feel has to happen?
Organization is key to it, right? You spoke about organization at the very start of the program, and we just need to find a formula that works.
What is the formula now?
Well, we have a couple of organizations. We have this organization, we have that organization. Then we have our ministry, the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, and we have youth, and we have sports, and we have culture. I think maybe what we may need to do is have an extended arm, right, for the Junkanoo itself. When Stafford Sands came in, when he was Minister of Tourism back in 1950, I think it's somewhere around there, he formed what he called the Masquerade Committee.
Right.
And that was made up of top businessmen like A.B. Malcolm and all those big downtown fellas. And that worked very well. And that was a body that was separate. And then the National Junkanoo Committee actually was run by the Ministry of Tourism, which I thought was a great idea because here it is now. You have the promotional arm of the Junkanoo, and that's no longer. So
is there room to introduce new elements to Junkanoo to keep it fresh, or do you think that would be diluting the culture or the parade by doing so? Because I remember earlier you were talking about how when they tried to introduce the steel pans, that didn't work. There was a lot of controversy with that. But, there have been people who are crying for more of an evolution with Junkanoo.
Well, Junkanoo is evolutionary. I mean, continuously changing every single day, right? We can't stop the change because, we come from the bush, right? And then we come with the satins, and then we come with the long fringe. And you come with the pantaloons and the masks and the headcloths and all sorts of things. And it has changed tremendously from even when I first started. We used to paste with flour and water.
Yeah.
Now,
Now, by the way, the steel band that I referred to, they weren't involved in the Junkanoo. They were like a separate group on the parade.
Well, they were actually Trinidadians.
Yeah, Trinidadians. All the West
all the West Indians got together, and then
they didn't compete or anything.
No, they didn't compete.
It was just a part of the entertainment. Yeah.
They didn't compete. I thought it was a good plus. To be honest with you,
Why? So to Rogan's point about new ideas, right? It seems to me, and it happens a lot in our cultural specter here, right? That certain people, and I'm going to put you in this category, but I think you're very open. Certain people own it. And if they don't approve of it, nothing changes. And I get the feeling when I would be in various meetings, et cetera, that they were not necessarily open to suggestions. That they wanted to keep things the way they are, right? They were happy with the way they wanted to keep the way things are. People don't understand that Waldo Francis and Gus Cooper were kind of really the impetus for Carnival.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. And it evolved from there. But do you find that to be the case, that there's a kind of insularity about, what we need to do and who could tell us what to do and who could give us insight,
But I can tell you the truth, right? If I want to be a doctor, where you think I get? Where I have to go.
Medical school.
I got to go to medical school. And they get any here?
Say again?
They have any here?
No, they ain't got
And
no-
also in Bahamas, I could go to.
See, you go back to that language.
But
how you say that in how you say that in your language?
I say that to say, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I go somewhere else and I see something that strikes me, and I say, boy,
That's a part of the creative.
I say, boy, this, yeah, because we talk about this artistic license, right? I have a license to do what it is I want to do if I see something. I would like to do experiments, and I think that's what we need to do. We could keep our basic traditional instrumentation with the drums and the cowbells and all that kind of thing, but we need to move. We might even start moving to mechanics. Who knows? I mean, yes,
and one of the things, we now have these huge costumes. Do you think you see an evolution where actually you change that paradigm and get smaller, or we just can get bigger and bigger and bigger to the point you have to move?
Boy, they big this year.
They got space?
Boy, I don't know. They're trying to figure out how they can get around. How they can get past Parliament. I mean, Parliament Street in Chile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some costumes I heard. I haven't seen any, but I heard there's some real big stuff out there. So I don't know. Every year there's something. Fringing is a task. Mm-hmm. I mean, you talk about the work that goes into fringing, and guess what? You come around here and it rain and you ain't got nowhere to go. And you get wet right up. I talking about soaking wet, right? And all them colors start running. I saw one morning we had here about 2 or 3 years ago. Rain right on Shady. Ain't nothing we gonna do. Just get wet. And that's it. Finish.
So we have not adjusted to even the fact that we don't want to have a destroyed costume. That might have worked when you was pasting on newspaper and one color. Because there was a lot of one color, monocolor costumes, you had. The top red and the bottom blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if it rained, nothing run.
You see? So the thing is when you get a dark blue and a white, or you get a red and a white,
You end up at aqua.
and a red on top. Yeah, pink.
Let me ask you. You're now obviously 70 years old.
I am.
Do you ever get tired of it? Do you ever say, boy, I don't know if I can make it this year?
To be honest with you, I'm asking that question of myself every day. Really? Where we going with this? I here forever. I can do the best I can, but it's only so
I'm
much you can do.
I'm going to say this because I don't think you would say this, but I'm going to say this. The fact that Wallo Francis, and Perry Christie said it to his credit, has given John Canoe, or this country, what it has. If you were in Brazil, I mean, granted, we know there are bigger populations, or if you were in Trinidad, your stature, your economic situation, all of that kind of stuff would be just drastically different.
Yeah. Of course.
And I mean, we can't aspire necessarily to be like Brazil with 22 million people in one city, but we could be proportionally there.
Yeah.
We can.
And that's a sad thing.
Very,
I
very,
know, like
very
I said,
sad.
I wouldn't say it, but that's a sad thing.
The love for something is okay, right? Mm-hmm. But then at the end of the day, your light bill is your mortgage now.
But also,
so you need money.
But also, when you love something, when you love something,
you let it kill you.
It's supposed to love you back.
It's supposed to, yeah.
It's supposed to love you back.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. I mean,
we can take a little break. We got another song. The crooner, the crooner Wallo is playing. Yeah. Let's see. That's Wallo Francis. Let's see. That's the funk. That's the Wallo funk.
I like that,
You like that?
Yeah, boy.
In fact, you know what I'm going to ask you to do, sir?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to ask you to honor me by when you get to Bay to do a little Wallo funk.
All right.
On Bay. Little funk. Okay?
Yes, sir.
I can be watching you, boy.
All right.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, let me say something to you. And I say this honestly. I've known this man now for 40 years or so. I don't know if I've ever even seen you mad.
You ain't seeing mad.
Well, I don't live with him. but you take you and let me just say this to you. I know of things that have happened in your life that you could consider an injustice, not getting a fair share. But you don't wear that on your sleeve. You I mean, you are truly about the art, and I just want to say that publicly. You're truly about the art. You have lots of reasons to be bitter, but you're not a bitter man.
No.
You know.
My terminology is water over duck's back. You know, I get broad shoulders, you know, and that's simply it. You know, I don't get caught up in carrying on like a fool and all this. You know, I'm a man of love, basically. Humility. A man of humility.
Yeah. Well, you got it going on.
I have a question for
Yes,
before we
ma'am.
go on.
Yes, ma'am.
I know earlier Edward asked you, you know, how long you could go on in this role, and you said you're thinking about that now. So is there like a succession plan in the Saxons for when you decide to step down?
We've had a succession plan in place for quite a while now,
So
for about a decade. You know,
they got leaders.
But we have leaders, but you know, I guess I might be the elephant in the room, you know, kind of thing. You know, I guess I'll just have to get up to scene totally, all right, and give the young people the room to do what it is necessary for them to do.
Is it a case of as long as you're around, the people are just...
I think as long as I'm around, you know, there's going to be a tendency of, you know, everybody still looking up to me and, you know, and depending on me to do certain things to that. And I think I've given them this year quite a reign. I've always been doing that because I believe in succession planning, succession, you know. Because I ain't gonna be here forever, Ed. All this can be gone sometime or other.
My good friend Anita Allen says none of us getting out of here alive.
No, you know, right? None of us. And so we can't. I mean, I can't be stupid and believe I can live forever. You know. So you got to put plans in place. See, Gus just walk away from us and gone, right? And I'm sure it wasn't no succession planning in the Valley Boys. You know, I'm sure they having their challenges right now. I mean, we all having our challenges in the organization because the young people time, you know.
You said they had a conclave recently, and one of the things that would have been discussed was how to kind of restructure the parades, like have a people's parade for one parade and have a real big granddaddy of a parade. Because let's face it, the resources are split between two parades.
Of course.
But if you can consolidate those resources, you would really have a grand thing. And then you make the one of the other parades a more fun parade. More people could participate. Introduce people to Junkanoo. You know, there's a lot of people. You know, I've done some. You know, we used to talk about this, Walla, that in reality, if you got 10,000 people sitting downtown to watch the parade, and let's just say, and I don't think this is the number, but let's put another 10,000 in the parade. That's less than 10% of people involved in Junkanoo.
You're right.
That's a very small group of people who are actually engaged in the culture of Junkanoo.
You're right. I think it's around 20, maybe 25, 30,000 people involved.
So
that's about it. That's
about
10% of the population.
And if we had 400,000, that's less than that.
And that's inclusive of all the islands as well.
And by the way, that also contributes to the fact that resources and focus, etc., is limited because actually you're a minority scenario. Only the minority are engaged. When I say minority and minority people are engaged.
Of course.
So to the extent that people are passionate, 90% of people aren't even really that engaged.
Now I know we have a lot of fans.
I
think we have way more fans than we get, you know, the people actually involved.
But they're not getting to the passion of coming out and sitting there and getting involved, etc.
No.
So how was that received? Okay, we've been doing. See, listen. You said it. At one point in the 50s, 60s, Junkanoo was doing one thing, going up and down, passing each other. It evolved to the point where you could no longer do that.
No.
So what is stopping it now from further evolving in terms of structure?
I just think it's in our own mind, our own heads. I think that we are, I hate to say this, but we are our greatest enemy. You know? We got to be able to come to a point. You know, Sam Cooke get a song, right? He was born by the Reverend of Little Tent. Change gonna come. Whether you like it or not, it's gonna come. And I know we have some traditions that we're trying to maintain and all that, but we have broken some of them already.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it seems to me it's like a slow trickle to the extent that you actually prohibit growth and expansion and economic well-being, right? if you had a fun parade, for instance,
Mhm.
on say Boxing Day, or let's reverse it around. The fun day is maybe New Year's. Okay, that now brings more people into it, right? Gets more people engaged, gets more people appreciating how it feels to hear those drums. Because it isn't nothing like when you get in the middle of those drums, where you understand your primal instincts, right?
Mhm.
More visitors, if it was on New Year's, for instance, would be in town because they come out for New Year's Eve. Even to the extent, and I know this is a big deal, but I'm just throwing it out there, to when you start the parade. When there's weather issues, you start the parade, say, at 8 o'clock. And it works fine.
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Yeah.
And it works fine, right?
Only thing I don't like going home too early.
Well, you got a whole other issue.
Yeah, going home in the dark.
Yeah.
It's strange.
You want to go home in the sunshine.
Well, that's normally what it is. It's a pre-dawn festival,
But listen, on the way that these parades go, when you start at 8 o'clock, you're going home in the night anyway.
You're going home in the dark.
No, man. To go around 2 rounds, at least in the existing structure,
we did one lap Christmas.
Well, you only did the 1 lap.
We did the 1 lap.
Right, but if you'd done 2 laps, you'd have gone home in the night.
Right, but I'm saying that was the worst period ever, I think, to me, in my mind's eye.
Because you only did the 1 lap.
you do all this work.
Well, why did they do the 1 lap?
For some reason, I think Bay Street owners wanted to open their stores, because we had pushed it over.
All right, okay.
And it wasn't a holiday,
It created a problem.
Created a problem for the merchants and all that. So that's why you need your own place, right? You need your own place.
Because Bay Street has been overwhelmed by the parade in the sense that when we were younger, Rogan always, just where she gets Demi about would rate a street run. Oh! Yeah, no, Rogan, but I have to ask the king.
Stop.
Why can't I ask the king?
Because you just keep doing this and then you change my mind about
anything.
anything.
I'm not trying to change your mind.
I don't care if
I'm
you
having
have
a discussion
10,000 people
with the
come
king.
on this show.
Okay,
Go.
I'm having a discussion. Now, Willa Francis.
Yes, sir.
You live on Mason's Edition, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you remember when Bay Street was going the opposite direction?
I remember that. I talk about that tonight coming here.
And where it stopped, remember when it stopped? I'm going to say the road because, okay. Remember it used to...
Ask him.
Where did it stop to turn two-way?
Where did it stop?
Yeah, because at one point it turned two-way.
Yeah, it was two-way. It was two-way.
No, what I'm saying is, hold on, let me.
Don't feed it to him.
No, I'm
not.
No,
it was two-way.
Yeah.
Yes, it was two. I agree with you.
Yeah, it was two-way at one point. But I'm saying that at one point it went to one way going east.
Going west.
Going west.
Right.
West.
One way going west.
Going west.
And then when Atlantis came.
Right. It turned the other way.
It turned the other way because it was a disadvantage with Shirley Street.
Exactly.
Going east on Shirley.
Right. So now on both those streets on Shirley, so we have agreement there. On both those streets, well, she doesn't agree with that. On both those streets on Shirley.
Hold on. Let me say something. You say I don't agree with that. I have told you the point where I said I was in the vehicle with my mother years ago where and my story doesn't change.
No, fine. And it was two-way.
And it was a two-way.
Right.
And I didn't say in front of John
In front of where?
I said like when you're making that turn on that bend from where the Hilton is coming onto Bay Street.
It would turn two-way.
It was a two-way.
Turn two-way on Navy Lion. Now, do you recall?
It was Bay Street.
For the sake of argument, do you recall when you passed Follow Street, it was two-way on Shirley Street?
You're talking about Follow Street East?
By Camp Horse.
Yeah, right. Something happened there.
Yeah, you would turn two-way.
It would turn two-way. Right.
And then by Armstrong Street on Bay Street, it would turn two-way.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
But that was a little while ago.
That was a little while ago.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the structure, she ain't gonna change her mind. I'm gonna have to take her back. I'm gonna have to take her back in time and let the.
You got the machine?
Yeah, I got the machine.
You're right.
Yes, ma'am.
I told you I have a coworker who said you don't know what you're talking about because she.
Who was that, Nishk?
Yes, that's correct. She said she 100% agreed with me because she remembers that point.
Titan?
She remembered being on that same road and that was a two-way.
Okay. I'm gonna just say this one last time and then we will.
And you're gonna do this every time somebody else comes on the show.
Up until the little curve, that was two-way. I'm sorry, one-way, and then it turned two-way on Navy Line Road like it is now, only in a different direction.
Anyway.
But I can show you the picture. I showed the pictures, and she said I made that picture up.
I did not. Don't do
what
that.
You said? What you said? What did you say? When I showed you the picture,
don't
what
do
you
that
said?
for jokes. Don't do that.
All right, take it back. What did you say when I showed you the picture?
Don't do that.
Well, what did you say?
I said, I don't care what you show me. I know what I experienced. Okay. I said, just like in 10 years, if someone were to ask me about this, and I'm so sorry we had to digress on this show with you, Vola. But if someone says 10 years later that this thing was two-way, and I said, no, it was one-way heading
west. But what
west.
if I showed you a picture?
I don't care. I think that picture was a different time from when I was traveling in that vehicle.
Okay. All right. I'll accept that. back to the structure thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Why is it that you said that you think in our worst enemies, but who then will have the capacity, if not you, to have that kind of impact? Because I mean, I almost believe that's a good Bahamian phrase right there. I most believe. Okay?
Directly?
Directly. I most
Directly.
believe that if Walter Francis stood up and said, look, guys, even if we only try it, let's make some changes. Let's try some things. I understand the passion about Bay Street. I get it. I mean, that's probably the hardest move to make from there. I get that one. But in terms of the structure, in terms of whether it should be a straight out, because making a turn is difficult. You got all these roads, kind of what you call it, shipyards, etc., where you could take off on the side and take a break, going straight. Or do we just continue to do the same thing until it falls apart?
Well, the one thing we don't want is for it is to fall apart. We don't want that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the road we on.
You don't like the back?
No, I don't like the road.
The direction.
Yeah, I don't like the road we on. Something got to be done.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna take a concerted effort for us. I mean, not just the Junkanoo and
But they control.
We control what we do. Yeah, on our people. We are the movers and shakers. But then at the same time, if there is going to be a move, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I like to see happen is, all right, you say, all right, there's going to be a move, but it'll be in 2 years.
Okay.
All right, and this is where we're moving to.
And we can build
and these are the drawings, these are the plans, this is all the technical stuff. Everything is done.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So the public themselves will be a part of the movement. You don't just go and cut the tree down. You see what I'm saying? Or uproot the tree and plant the tree someplace else. Now, it's hard to move a cotton tree.
I thought virtually impossible, but
it's impossible to move a cotton tree. And even talking about transplant,
plant another tree.
You have to plant another tree. But I think we get to the point right now, man. We have to make a drastic change.
So someone has to come with vision.
Yes.
Has to present a plan. Has to perhaps maybe incentivize through more prize money or whatever to say, okay, well, if you're going to take part in this parade, this what the prize money is versus, I don't know, whatever, and then present it to the Junkanoo community. But if they say, listen, it's Bay or nothing.
Well, that's a different story again. That's why I say you can't just jump up and say you can move. It has to be a total discussion. Even your sponsorship. You bring them in and make them a part of what you're trying to do. Get everybody to understand.
We are, though, a stubborn people.
Of course we are.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Well, we got 5 more minutes left, so let me talk about this album. You're into the album business now.
Yes, sir.
You're 70 years old with this on your bucket list?
I always wanted to be the Frank Sinatra, the Bahamas. I love to sing. And
I don't think many people knew that side of you.
Yeah, and I am planning on moving from the street to the stage.
Okay, I thought you was going to say to Hollywood.
Yeah, that's Hollywood. No, but seriously, man, the music and all in the country is going, going another way as well. We did good with the carnival, with the music. I mean, I
wish we could have had time to talk about that.
Listen, man, we had over 100, almost 200 songs.
180 songs.
180 songs. So
it was starting to happen.
First go around.
The second go around was about 90 or so.
And it was amazing, the creativity that we have in the country. And so I think we got to do something with the music.
See, that's another thing, right? So even the carnival presents an example of how we were just stalled into the sameness. We can't move out of that sameness. And I'm a little pessimistic about introducing. But you know what? Let me say this again, though. Had that been private money, that would have been a non-issue. You see, because it was government money, and we have a culture of everyone trying to grab peace, even if it's not for the the greater good. That's what it became. Well, as you know, it was all about who could get peace.
Because nobody had a problem with the carnival this year, but after being privatized,
because they didn't have no say in it.
It wasn't no issue.
You have no say.
You see, so I mean,
all they care about is how the people shake.
But the carnival is a great business. And the thing about the carnival is a daytime activity, wherein Junkanoo is a
Evening.
pre-dawn
Yeah.
activity. One is the birth, in Trinidad is the death of Christ, the pre-Lenten period,
Right.
and Christmas is the birth of Christ. So I mean,
Okay,
when
on
you
both ends.
when you really look at this, carnival ain't owned by no one. The word in the dictionary, it's right there. Look it up and see what it
So you
means.
need people like you to say that because you get these. But all of that dissension was just an excuse to talk about ego, to substitute egos and the money grab. And I was right up in it.
We all were right in the midst.
Many a late night with this gentleman and our good friend Mr. Freddie Munnings. And I thought, Walla Francis, that what we were going to see was the rebirth of Bahamian music to the extent that we would not only have Bahamian music grow, but that music would be inculcated into Junkanoo.
That was the plan.
Okay? Because if you could sing hymns, if you could play hymns, and then you could play Bahamian written music,
Of course. I mean,
that
was the
we
plan.
also would introduce by bringing people here for a carnival festival, people to Junkanoo, which was the midnight rush. All of the other culture, our foods, our music, that was the intent.
And you being
But it got-
you being a hotelier, you know exactly what the best period was to have the carnival, and it was a time when the rooms were available,
Right.
and we had people
We had a
all
plan.
lined up to
We
come
had-
from everywhere.
We had a plan, and several people and I'm going to say it publicly. I'll tell you this before we go. You know what one guy told me? I'm going to say who it is. He told me, in truth and honesty, that his opposition was to it was because he was not included in the process, and that hurt his feelings. That's
I know who that was. We ain't gonna call his name.
No.
Yeah.
But that is a serious thing, to say that something that could have improved the economic development of our artists and given them opportunity to travel the world with their music because you were not included in the process of the planning, your feelings were hurt.
And
That's
he
a sad
made
thing.
a ruckus of it.
Big ruckus.
Yeah.
And that's what he told me directly. This ain't no guess. My friend Willa,
Ed, this is good, man. We're in the season.
yeah? You ready? Because our boy Rock say he worrying about who will win.
Yeah, some good advertisement.
That's right now. He worried about who will win, man. It's actually right.
But that's
What is your inside scoop?
We better win. We better win.
Yeah. But
So-
that's the way it is. That's the culture right there.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who wins or loses. What matters is that you go out, you give it your effort, and all of it is a part of the game. If at the end of Junkanoo 2018, someone don't say they cheat, that's a part of the culture
Of
just
course.
to say that.
But I can tell you the truth. Either you're going to win or you're going to lose.
And if you win, everything cool.
Yeah.
And if you lose, they cheat.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
They rob us.
Yeah, they rob us. You think you'll ever have a Junkanoo where they say, "Oh yeah. That was a fair. That was a fair assessment."
Yeah.
They cheat.
Now, a fella like me, I could always tell,
Uh-huh.
boy, I in trouble this morning. And you got to admit it. If you're in trouble, you're in trouble. You just ain't got it.
When do
today.
you know that?
When see
You could
the
almost know it
competition.
immediately.
Because you don't get to see the other groups that easy.
No, I mean, you don't have to get to see them. Sometimes
you're
it's just,
performing.
basically, I'm an artist.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a theme man. And so I know if your theme is not interpreted in the way that it really should be, and I know that you've done a great job of it, I could give you the kudos. You say, why they good this morning? Don't sleep on them. They good. And admit it. And go home, go sleep, and you get beat.
It has been truly an honor, Mr. Francis P for Pricey, and just emphasize that. And we shall see you on the stage.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah. Because you can be a part of this, I think I can do my first show at Atlantis.
Okay. Well, Francis, good luck for you in the parades, and pleasure having you, my friend.
Thank you
Yes,
for
it was.
inviting me over, and I
pleasure.
want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and
Thank you.
a
Thank
new
you.
year that's filled with prosperity,
not
love,
forget.
joy, and peace.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The Placey Funk. What do we call it? The Walla Funk? What do they call it? I forget.
Now,
I can't
What was
remember
it?
what
Was
you
it the
call
Placey
yeah,
Funk?
funk,
What
yeah, Walla funk.
Walla
The Walla Funk.
Right now, funk could mean you blow, you know.
Yeah, no, we don't mean that. And I don't want to say
That
what
one, right?
I don't even want to say what bloke it means.
Yeah.
We're gone.
All right.